One of the things I love about the NBA is just we get to see a lot of the elite players actually go against each other, which is awesome. Like seeing Lillard go up against Paul George and Beverly. Beverly didn't really play, so he didn't get to go against him. But just seeing matchups, just it brought me flashbacks to last season when Damian Lillard sent Paul George and Westbrook home when he hit that game winner against OKC. That's one of the that still image of Paul George reaching over to block Damian Lillard's shot and he couldn't, and like just having two stars going up against each other, defending each other is, I think that's one of the things that I like so much about the NBA. Just because like in other sports like soccer or football, you don't really see that. I mean, there's like what other the stars in football is mostly their quarterbacks, Mahomes, Jackson, Breeze, Rogers. Those are all their like what the NFL markets. When they have playoff matchups, everyone's excited. Russell Wilson versus Rogers and just stuff like that. But they never really get to go against each other. You see, in the NBA, you'll see the two stars, defending each other. The game comes down to the last minute, and you have them guarding each other. In the NFL, the NFL is dope. I love the NFL, but like growing up, I always saw Manning versus Brady. Manning versus Brady, one of the best matches ever. Two of the best quarterbacks. But at the end of the day, it would just be Brady against the Colts defense and Manning against Brady's defense. And those are, it's fun to watch, but you never see the two stars going at it. Like in the NFL, you would see like a great pass rusher going against a left tackle or a right tackle. I mean, that's not something that you turn on the TV to watch. Sometimes the camera angle doesn't even get them like going at it. You don't really see, oh man, like that left tackle really held his own this snap, Or I mean, you have the wide receiver and the cornerback, but like I said, even the TV angle doesn't really capture that as well as they could, or they just have to keep the camera on the football. So for the most part, it's just watching the quarterback. Wide receiver cornerback matchups are pretty fun. Like running back and maybe a middle linebacker, or quarterback and a safety having to like read each other's like cues and stuff like that. It gets kind of like, you do have some matchups that are pretty interesting, but for the most part, you never see the stars really match up against other stars, and like the outcome of the game determines like how these stars perform against each other. It's more of a team aspect, which is nice. It's good. I love the NFL, but I just love the singularity of the NBA, of how you can have stars go at it like one on one. Paul George against Damian Lillard. Whenever you see Damian Lillard go up against Russell Westbrook, that's must watch TV, because they both are dogs. They both want to win. You see Westbrook, he gets points against like some other stars. And he starts rocking the baby. The NBA is just it's a great league to watch. It's super entertaining. There's like drama. NBA players are very intertwined with the pop culture. You always see there's like the all Kardashian team and stuff like that. It's just, the NBA just has so much quality content that you could consume. If you don't watch the NBA, I recommend you to pick it up. It's very entertaining, especially if you follow like the storylines. The NBA is one of the best at keeping storylines throughout the season and just following player movement. Another thing that I like about the NBA is like players nowadays have a lot of say where they could go. Mostly thanks to LeBron, he started the movement on empowering players to move to teams where they feel like their career could go in a better trajectory. So he kind of started that when he went to Miami, and then after that, a lot of players that followed, which I think is good for the NBA. I didn't like what KD did, but I mean, I don't feel like a lot of players would do what KD did. I feel like that's maybe one in a million. Most people know that you got to keep a competitive balance, and you go to a team like Kawhi. Kawhi signed with the Clippers. He could have signed with the Lakers. That would have been crazy. Like Lakers would have obviously been the favorites, even more the favorites. They would have had like, it would have been crazy. It would have been another like Warriors situation basically. So as much as I want the Lakers to win a championship, I'm kind of glad Kawhi didn't come to us, just because it would kind of ruin the parity of the NBA. But yeah, the NBA is elite. I love the NBA. It's one of my favorite sports to watch. It's definitely top 3 of the sports. Growing up, soccer was my favorite sport. It was the sport I played. It was the sport I followed the most. And then I picked up football because one of my teachers, she was a diehard Seattle Seahawks fan, and she would always just bring them up and talk about them. And I'll be like, man, what is this lady talking about? And then I started, I was like, man, I might have to check out some football. And then I started watching the NFL. I'm like, oh, okay, this is dope. I love the NFL. And ever since elementary school, I was like, all right, the NFL is dope. And then almost the same thing with basketball. I kept hearing people talk about the basketball, and people always said, oh man, the NBA is so dope. So I decided to take a look. Sure enough, NBA is so dope, and I just love the NBA now. So if you were to ask me what my favorite sport is, I would have a very difficult time answering that question. For a while, I mean, it was clearly soccer, and then football was making a push to beat soccer, and basketball was my third favorite sport. But I feel like maybe now, if you ask me, I still got to give soccer the nod. I love watching a good soccer game. Champions League, the World Cup. The World Cup is amazing. Nothing can compare like the World Cup. But yeah, basketball is number 2 now, and the NFL would have to be third. And then after that, I'll watch some tennis. I'll dabble in some baseball, but basketball is elite, man. I feel like basketball has the potential to be my favorite sport in the near future. And I feel like basketball is the only sport that could be as global as soccer. I don't think it'll ever get as global as soccer is, but it is the only one that could kind of approach that type of global audience. Football's too American. Football's dope. I love the NFL, but it's too American. Like, they're trying to push it in England and stuff like that. There is a market for it, but I would never feel like there'll never be like a Euro League for NFL, like where Luka Doncic came from, where he was playing in the second best league in the world, in Spain. I don't think that will ever happen with the NFL. There's just not there's just not people like in other parts of the world that really want to play football.